and that she's depicted as a serpent queen, or a goddess emerging from her mound on February 1st to signify the return of life and spring. So that's the imagery, and I'm sure that all sounds familiar to any of you who are from Pennsylvania. And so all of this has to do with a pre-Christian Bridget, who merges with a Christian Bridget, and none of us, of course, have any problem with it at all, because that's how mythology works. This is the Bridget you're probably more familiar with, very sort of austere looking. She's got the Bridget cross in her hand. In her scroll it says, to satisfy the poor, to expel every hardship, and to spare every miserable man. And there on the bottom, I think it's in the more general sense of miserable, like zero. So you see her cross on the bottom there, made of rush. Yeah, and then the anemone of Bridget, her innocence. And it's also used, a flower that's often used in Ireland in weddings. And then, so that's the Bridget you know. But we're going to look at a Bridget we don't know so well. This, of course, is her trademark. She's from Kildare, right here. And you see where oh, where's my star? It went away. This should be here. And Kildare, you see right here. And the important thing about Kildare is that it has 3 major rivers. The Barrow, the Liffey, and the Boyne. And so here's Kildare. And it's an area filled with wells, rivers. There's a lot of mythology in that neighborhood and in Ireland in general, but especially in that neighborhood about the power of water and the nature of water and the sacred quality of water. So here's her cross at her holy well, which we'll get to. And this, thanks to Michelle Marvick, we know a little bit about. This is Ignatius the Builder, who built the chapel that we're right across from. And you know all these facts, so I can skip right through them. And you know about the stained glass windows. Here on the left.
Who? Ignatius, Jesuit.
Yeah. Here on the left you have the Saint Bridget with her cross. It's Latinized, and then her dishes, indicating her interest in feeding the poor, offering them food and drink, especially ale to the poor and to the travelers. She readily shared what she had with others, especially strangers. And I think, and I've said this before, I know, but I think that spirit is still alive very much today at Rosemont among the sisters and the faculty and the students and the alums. So, anyway, there she is. Now, let's think of a more ancient Celtic Bridget, somebody who wields a snake, a symbol for fertility, birth, making the land more productive. So the job of a snake is to go in and out of the land, literally to fertilize the land so that the crops will grow. That's why places with snakes are in good shape. And she's also associated with the Serpent Queen, who emerged from her hole on the 2nd of February to herald spring. So all these myths sound like they're colliding to you in your mind. That's how they're supposed to work. Because if you're really smart, you'll just keep building on a system instead of trying to set up new ones all over the place. You just keep building on an old idea, just like Christianity built on paganism and Judaism and all the other systems that were around. So there's a folk prayer associated with this feast, this Celtic feast. And it says, early on bride's morn, that would be Bridget, early on bride's morn, the serpent shall come from the hole. I will not molest the serpent, nor will the serpent, bless you, molest me. So this feast is all about, it's a kind of syncretic feast for us now. It's about the pagan goddess Bridget, the Christian Saint Bridget, and it's all connected with, as Michelle said, and as Sister Peg said, the ideas of rebirth and regeneration and fertility and it's sort of the happiness at the idea that life is going to continue. Like we're kind of over the edge right now. You know, we've had the shortest day of the year. It's probably going to get better. Probably gonna get better. A little maybe premature, but it's getting better. Yeah, I know. Just watch your steps on the way out. So we all know this tradition. So here's our own on the bottom left, Punxsutawney Phil. I haven't ever gone to the celebration, but my daughter did. And she said it's basically just like a drunk fest. So it's, but I bet it's fun, you know? Yeah. There's an idea. Next year, Punxsutawney, or what is it? Gobbler's Knob. Gobbler's Knob. So this same tradition, the snake, the serpent, the groundhog, same idea finally emerging from the darkness, from the cave into the light of spring. And so I saw this image of Bridget. It reminded me very much of what one of our alums is doing with Bridget and thinking about Bridget. So here she is, a kind of goddess saint of blood, of fertility, of healing, of birth, of menstruation. I get a little confused when saints have that many things they can do. And I'm never sure, like, well, which one, you know what I mean? So I think with Bridget, the most important thing is water. I know she's fire, I know that, but I think the most important thing is water and healing and rebirth, like children. Amniotic fluid, menstrual fluid, all those fluids that we have, that women have. So here's one of the poems that I found by Christine Irving, Imbolc Day. Blood stains the snowy field, streaks the broad white forehead of the goddess, coats her arms in red gloves. Her mouth holds imprint of a bloody kiss, tiny nostrils free to phlegm, life's warm breath blown away through blown through open airways. She sits cross-legged, lamb cradled in her lap, as dawn replaces indigo with apricot, leaching darkness from the sky, the birth-exhausted you, leaning on bright Bridget's shoulders, licks her baby clean. So that's like a messy process, right? It's a lot of fluids and colors, and it's probably the messiest process there is, birth. It's just chaos and mess, right? But out of it comes hope. So I thought to go to another of Harry Clarke's windows. He is, by the way, an Irishman from County Cork, and most of his windows are in County Cork, except this one is in Boston. I'm sorry, Miami. Yeah, I've never seen it, but now I'm going to have to go and look. This is St. Bridget, and she's got that same brocaded central part, but now she looks more clerical even. She looks very like a priest, if you were. She's in profile, which makes her look very sort of Roman and imperial. She has a halo, but her halo is not gold, but a kind of leaden color, and it's got a cross behind it, which is typically reserved for the figure of Christ in iconography. You know that.
A cross. Oh, a cross, yes.
That's only Jesus, right?
Yes.
But we have an iconographer. You're the iconographer?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Well, I know we have iconographers in this room.
Ancient, yeah.
So, okay, so then she's got a cruciform halo, which makes her appear to be a Christ figure. Now we know from talking about Bridget, and a male, yeah.
Androgynous.
Yeah, and we know from talking about Bridget that she, lost my train of thought. Anyway, so she's got her cross around her head, and then in her left hand here is an image of the crucified Christ. And it's on a field that looks very like what? Right, it's a mandala, it's a vagina, it's a field of epiphany. So there she is holding the epiphany of the crucifixion. So this is a real complicated window. This is one of his last windows. And I'm sure we could do something with like all the foliage, like, and the types of flowers. I haven't, but I'm sure we could. And then underneath is quoted the poem by Lady Gregory. Isn't she just absolutely gorgeous? And look at that. Look at that blue. Wow. Yeah, it's a great winter color, right? And so here's his St. Bridget, and it's based on a passion play, which I'm going to immediately go and get, by Lady Gregory, called The Story Brought by Bridget. Bridget. Sister Peg is the only one in this room who would know that, probably know that story. Do you know that story by Lady Gregory? No. Okay, so I'll get 2 copies. I'll get 2 copies. Okay, so it's the story brought by Bridget. And it's based on a legend that's very popular in Ireland, not so much here, that Bridget was there for the birth and crucifixion of Christ. That when he entered triumphantly into Jerusalem, and after his death, she was also present. And that she's a foreigner, observing and commenting. She tells people she's Jesus' foster mother. What chutzpah, right?
Middle East, I was in the Middle East, there's nothing like this
I know.
there.
It's wonderful.
I mean, we saw where Jesus was born, nothing like this.
Yeah, well, this is an alternative legend here. We got an alternative. And it doesn't, as my friend Father Richard used to say, it doesn't matter the legend, it doesn't matter the source, the reality, the facts. All that matters is that you believe. She tells people she's Jesus' foster mother, which she's really setting herself up for, as we know, the Blessed Mother of Ireland, which is how she's thought of along with Patrick and Columbus. She's one of the top 3 in Ireland. And she tells people she's his foster mother. I love it. And then that she helped Mary and Jesus to Ireland to escape Herod. Did you ever hear that version? Isn't that great? I know. It probably would have taken like a year to get there, though. So,
Wow.
yeah, there's also little butterflies, and there's all sorts of stuff in here. Anyway, this is Lady Gregory. You all know who she is. She was a famous Anglo-Irish who later was very much more on the side of the Catholics, I suppose you would say. And she founded the Irish Literary Theatre, the Abbey Theatre, and she wrote a lot of works. And she is the authoress of that poem, not that. Well, you know which one I'm talking about, the one I read. Okay, so here we are now at her well. So now we're going to take our leap of logic. So here is Bridget associated with her sacred site. This is, in this case, her well. We already looked at where she came from, lots of water, 3 rivers coming together. She's one of those early Christian saints, because she's a 5th century saint, who's very much associated with water, but not water outside of the country, water inside the country. In other words, she doesn't travel. She doesn't like go places, but she's always associated with water in the country. So some of her associations, as I said, are fire, poetry, unity, childbirth, and healing. She's also thought in the mythology, which some of you may know, that she was the daughter of Dagda, the High King, who founded Newgrange, which is the topography, the location, the Neolithic passage grave, which is thought to be the birthplace of the race of wizards and magicians who came from the heavens and settled in Ireland. So this is the location of the founding mythology of Ireland, and she's thought to be descendant of the first king of that passage. So it's a very neat, it's a very neat little chart of connections. This is her well. This is a property not far from the church of Kildare, and you can see that you walk down those stations and you go around, if you want, each station 3 or 7 times. You go counterclockwise in the old Celtic pattern, and that's pilgrimage in Ireland. Everywhere else in the Western world, you leave your town and you go to Rome, or you leave your town and you go to the Holy Land. Well, in Ireland, you go to your church and you walk around in circles, and you manage all of that travel in a spiritual, intellectual, emotional way. It's a completely different idea of pilgrimage, much more sort of Eastern. Well, I like to think of it as Eastern. Anyway, so on the right you see all these little rags and things hanging on the tree, usually ash. And they're placed there by people who believe that if you rub this rag on someone who's ill and you hang it on the tree, the illness will disappear as soon as the rag disappears. And so all throughout Ireland, on any wells, we might see some, if you hang one of these cluties, they're called, you might have a cure of the person you're trying to remember. I don't know what that word means. I couldn't get any farther than the old Scottish, but there may be a way of doing it. And they would also hang other things like votive offerings, candles, rosaries, medals, crosses, icons, other symbols of their faith. And it's all this sort of little tiny personal kind of homespun paraphernalia that I think is so interesting in terms of studying the history of art, because it's like a direct witness to like the most common denominator of faith. You know what I mean? It's not a giant mausoleum or giant cathedral or giant palace. It's this tiny personal little kind of wonderful thing. So you might say prayers at these stations, and then you might stop at the shrine. And here's Bridget, and you can see all the paraphernalia, little flowers, little rosaries. I'm sure if we saw more of her, we would see more. There's just a wonderful, there's another Clutie tree. I remember first seeing them in the landscape and thinking, what the heck is going on? Is it like haunted? And it is in a way, I guess. They're haunted by this sort of, this is one in Cornwall, which after watching a number of series of the series Poldark, I've decided is they're like Ireland, they're Celtic. They're not really Angles, I don't think. I hope. They're more like Celts, I think. So this is the oil right there. But if you go to the church at Kildare that is associated with all of this, inside the church you find, as you can see, it's kind of neo-Gothic, single nave building. And in that church is a tomb, tomb to Bishop Wellesley. And if you reach under the tomb, you can feel that little shield in the gig. And if you rub it, you're told you would have ensured fertility. So that's so. Does anybody know what a Sheila is? A Sheila in the gig, what you see on the left? Have to know. Somebody knows. Can't even know what a Sheila is now. She doesn't know.
It's a stone carving. It's a stone carving.
What is it?
A Sheila gig is a stone carving. You find them in old buildings in Ireland, and churches, and mostly on churches. But and they're kind of often obscene.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I'm not sure what their
They're
purpose
often
is.
of what?
Obscene.
She said.
They're often obscene. They're kind of over sexualized carvings.
Exactly.
Stone
You said
carvings.
obscene.
She did.
Obscene.
Yes.
No, I just didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and you said also that they're often found in religious buildings.
You often find them. You know,
Yes.
you've got lots of holy stuff, and then you have Sheila in the gig hiding
So you
somewhere.
have to wonder why.
Yeah.
So what's the idea?
Is it fertility
It's-
also?
Well,
It is for sure fertility, because what it is a woman standing or kneeling or kind of squatting, I'm not gonna imitate it, and she reaches down and she pulls the lips of her vagina open.
Oh.
That's what a Sheila is, and there are hundreds in Ireland. I don't know if any of that's
That's a woman's
country.
name too.
It is. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what they call it. So anyway, what's she doing? What's she doing in church? What's she doing in Bridget? What the hell's going on? So, you know, as American Catholics, and as I think British and American Catholics, we tend to divide everything into like black and white. So the white is on one side and the black's on the other side. And the line is in the middle, and if you step over the line, you know, you have a mortal sin and blah, blah, blah. So, but it's not that simple in mythology. There are all sorts of gray, and this is that gray, which crosses over from, you know, the idea of fertility and different values. You know, she's a goddess for sure, and she expresses fertility. And she's it's
pagan.
she is kind of let's say primal. Let's say primal. Primal, yeah, can we agree? Primal? Yeah. Okay. So, sure. So, here she is, Sheila Niggin, and she's on the tomb of Wolsey. So who is Wolsey? I forget. Wolsey, did I put a slide in here about Wolsey? I don't think I did. So anyway, he was an 18th century bishop. Okay. So around the corner, you're going to see something that looks like this, or something that looks like this, and it's, as you can see, a torso, female torso, fairly in print, looks like she's in some kind of distortion or pain. Her genitalia look sort of mechanical, or something's going on over there. She's red, she's very red. She's got a Liberty, she's got the Statue of Liberty headpiece, and she's called Lest Liberty Parish. This is a brilliant student who's done these works. Lest Liberty Parish. And that's her, yeah, she's a Rosemonster. She was from, but she did her degree in the studio department here at Rosemont. She would be here tonight except for the snow. And here's another one. It's called the Menstrual Fertility Female. It's about the menstrual female fertility cycle. And her name is Marcy Brosna. So it's, of course, red, white, and blue, but it's got dissection needles and other sort of menstrual paraphernalia, like behind the center part. Here she is.
Cross and is that Bridget's cross?
Yes,
And,
it is.
Where the flag is.
Oh, right, the center one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Chelsea. I didn't see it. This is called Blood Coming Out of Her Betsy Ross. Isn't that fabulous? It's embroidery on menstrual pads.
Oh my God.
And pregnancy, postpartum supply, sorry for the end, in order to raise awareness of the abysmal maternal mortality rates and stillbirth and death rates in the US. Work for change. So, yeah, a lot of passion, right? Go Rosemont. Yeah. But I love the way she put the red, white, and blue together and turned it into a symbol of feminism. Here we go. That's Maggie Brosma. Let's read this again. Imbolc Day. Blood stains the snowy field, streaks the broad white forehead of the goddess. Coats her arms in the red gloves. Her mouth holds imprint of a bloody kiss, tiny nostrils free of phlegm, life's warm breath blown through open airways. She sits cross-legged, lamb cradled in her lap, as dawn replaces indigo with apricot. Leaching darkness from the sky. The birth-exhausted June, leaning on bright Bridget's shoulder, licks her baby clean. Beautiful. So, that's that. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to pass the microphone to Joanna Campbell, and she's going to do a commercial.
Stretch. Okay. Okay. Briefly, I want to introduce Pearl Smith, one of the wonderful students and birthday girl from our medievalism and popular culture course. So we are happy to announce our medievalism and popular culture course will be traveling to Ireland in March, first week of March, with some of our alums who are also in this room. And I encourage all of you as you exit this evening to take a look at the flyers that are on the table straight ahead. And they illuminate and illustrate the students' final presentations from last semester, talking about their work that they will be studying in Killarney National Park. Now, some of you know many of the buildings on this campus were built by John McShane, who also built the Pentagon and the Library of Congress and the Jefferson Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial and many other things. He's an Irish-American success story, and his daughter, Sister Pauline, was a sister of the Society of the Holy Child Jesus. And their family purchased 25,000 acres in Killarney, which later was to become Killarney National Park, the first national park of Ireland, and today it is a UNESCO World Heritage Biosphere. So the students are excited to travel to Ireland in March with Professor Bizzarro and Chelsea Frank and me and other members of our community. So Pearl's going to talk a little bit about that, but please make sure you look at the student presentations on your way out. Thank you.
Hi, just a quick word before Joanne disappears. I think we can all acknowledge that Joanne's probably done more to keep this place vital over the last 3 or 4 years than anyone else, so I'm just gonna give you some thoughts and say I appreciate it.
Excuse me. Give me 1 moment to see if I can find this presentation.
You should already do that.
I see. I want to make it go on that. Also, that's fine. Cool. It's on this, and I don't know if I put it on there. I'm sorry, Jess.
It is minimized, but it's still up, so it should be up.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm on the corner. It looks like a photo, isn't it?
I think you have to push the HDMI instead. Oh, you go to HDMI. There it is. It's it. It's it.
Yeah, it just was bounced off the HDMI. It should be on HDMI. Pressing enter.
Well, if this doesn't work, that's okay. We can just
Figure it out.
What is that on?
because if it's on the PowerPoint, it always works.
It's the PowerPoint. Oh, Word. Wow.
I mean, just for some reason the cables.
HDMI. Yeah. HDMI. Oh, I know what to do. Yes. Turn off the projector for a second. Just put it there. I think I have to do this in class. It's worth trying. Just hit it. Yeah, just hit it and then turn off. And maybe, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that turns up on screen. And then just, I think it's going to work. Like, how to form the travel trust. So, let's say the compliments. You got a joke in it? So you want to just stand up for a second?
Do you want to pass it to?
Talk about Rosemont.
Oh, we get this up. Yeah, right. We'll bring it to you. So you bring it back. Yeah, I think it brings back everything.
So I am. Here you go.
Join Rosegrove!
So I am. Don't give me a microphone. I'm way too much.
It's just, I think it's still
That's
warming
fine.
up.
If it looks like that, that's genuinely fine.
It's getting clearer.
It's warming.
It only it's warming up.
It's
For it to
warming
turn
up.
on.
Are you able to scroll through those? Okay.
Very good. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm going to be sitting in this chair, so sorry I'll be like talking this way. That's my bad. I also will be reading from my phone, so apologies. My name is Pearl Smith. I'm a third-year sustainability student here at Rosemont. I was a cultural heritage gallery intern last fall semester. So this is some of my work from last fall semester that I'm going to share with you guys today. I'm also a member of Rosemont, and we do really cool events, so you guys should join and get on that. But I'm going to be talking about the goddess Cailleach and the goddess Saint Bridget, or the goddess Bridget, also known as Saint Bridget, the patron saint of Ireland, and really the significance of their relationship. So the Cailleach is the goddess of winter. She is known by many names, such as the Winter Hag, the Cailleach Burha, as well as the Queen of Winter. Today we'll be just referring to her as the goddess Kalyak. And she appears in many forms, often depicted with grayish, bluish, purplish skin and long white hair. She is the goddess of winter, storm, and death, and she is the personification of decay and dormancy that comes in these cold months. Her power is felt as the nights grow longer and the days grow shorter. Her reign of winter begins during Samhain, also known as All Saints' Day, and to us we celebrate it as Halloween. And often in Halloween we think of associated with like horror and spookiness, but to the Celtics, Samhain was a time of reflection and a time of preparation to prepare for the long, cold, hard winter ahead. And a time of respect and honoring what has come before you to prepare you for the long, cold, hard winter. And that is how many Celts, and also how we should think of the Kalyak, as not a goddess to be feared, despite her harshness. Rather, she is one that should be respected during her reign. There are many different stories in the mythos of the Kalyak. Some of them, she becomes older and older and more weathered as the winter months go on, until as spring reaches, she turns to stone and crumbles away and becomes the goddess Bridget once again and is reborn. In some stories, she goes inside her cave, and what emerges is the beautiful goddess Bridget. Like Bridget, the Kalyak is also a symbol of fertility, which might not be thought of at first. But while she is also the bringer of winter, she is the bringer and protector of the seeds that will sprout in the spring. She is said that to hold the seeds of the new year in her lap while the earth slumbers. She's often also depicted with lots of rocks in her apron and a hammer that she throws down against the earth that creates the mountains and landscapes which we live upon. Within one story, the legend of Nile and the sovereignty goddess, I'll just be sharing a brief summary of the story, but basically during this time in Ireland there was a lot of war and arguments over who was going to be the ruler and king of Ireland. So 5 brothers were sent on a trial to go hunting. While they were hunting, they needed water, and they found a well where it was being protected by a terrifying hag, being the Kalyak. There, she demands a kiss in exchange for water. All the brothers refuse and are repulsed by the old hag. However, the youngest brother, Niall, earnestly embraces the old hag, and that is when she transforms into the beautiful, youthful woman representing the land of Ireland. She then explains that although she is hideous to the people that are fearful of her, she is beautiful to the people that she is beautiful to those who are brave. She then grants him and his descendants the kingship of Ireland. And to me, this myth really highlights that in Irish tradition, the land, being the Kalyak, being the sovereignty woman, is ultimately who decides who is worthy to rule that land, based off their willingness to embrace her in all forms, despite if she's the cold, haggard, old winter queen, or if she is the beautiful maiden of spring. And this union that is formed between them is required from the king in order to care for this land, promising fertility in exchange for his courage. And this union represents a cosmic principle in Irish kingsmanship, that the land, being the sovereignty woman, is who chooses the rightful ruler through this union. The old hag represents the decayed land in winter, while the young maiden is the spring. And this represents the renewal that is born through this. Now, kissing the hag shows the land will renew itself when it's respected and not exploited. She is the right of the land to choose who rules it. A man who does not honor the land cannot rule it. The ruler depends on the land, and the land demands respect. And I think this is a really important in Irish culture, is that power is not taken, it is given when respected. And if we do not care, and if we do not act as stewards and rulers of the land, even if we're not kings ourselves, the world will become barren and it will withdraw. Excuse me, let me scroll down. Now, when we're talking about the relationship between the Cailleach and Goddess Bridget, they really are two halves of the same person. The Cailleach's power begins to wane as spring approaches, which is what's happening right now as we're at the end of January. And traditionally, the domain of spring is ruled by the Goddess Bridget. This is when rebirth really begins. And like I was saying before, there are many different stories and versions of the transformation of the Cailleach to Bridget, but the transformation is really the core of their relationship. And the Cailleach gives way to Bridget around this time of Imbolc to symbolize that the death of winter is over and the rebirth of spring is now beginning. This obviously occurs around Imbolc Festival, being February 1st and February 2nd, and it marks the first signs of spring. The story of the Cailleach and Bridget perfectly illustrate this Celtic view of the year in two halves, the dark and the light, the cyclical nature of life and death and rebirth. And then the beautiful goddess Bridget is born. And here we see that she's very much depicted as this young, beautiful maiden of Ireland with her fiery red hair. She is the embodiment of spring and new life and healing, while the Cailleach represents the old year. Also, as we know that in Celtic mythology, Bridget is also a triple goddess, meaning that she not only oversees fire, but also healing and poetry, inspiration, as well as smithcraft, which I find interesting. She is the vibrant maiden of spring. She represents new life, fertility, inspiration, and her emerging signifies that winter is at its end, and the beginning of the light half of the year is now beginning. Her arrival and emergence tells us that the stillness and darkness and fear of winter is over, and that is why she's associated with the life-giving spark of fire, St. Bridget's flame, and associated with flowing rivers and blossoming flowers. The rebirth of the goddess Bridget is celebrated during Imbolc with the fire festivals with candles and bonfires, and these candles and bonfires and celebrations represent the return of the sun and the return of life. And it's a time to celebrate that we've made it through the rough, harsh, cold winter, and we've now finally arrived at spring, and there will be hope, and we will survive. So even though right now we are all looking outside at the piles and piles of harsh, cold snow, it's also important to remember that it's very much necessary, and the harsh coldness is what freezes over and protects the land during the cold, hard months, so that in the spring, when the goddess Bridget emerges again, we can have beautiful flowing rivers and beautiful blossoming flowers. And it's all necessary, and it's all part of a cycle. Thank you guys.
Wait, plug for May Day.
Oh, and we will be celebrating the beautiful spring, and we will be celebrating the beautiful goddess's love on May Day at Rosemont College, and we're going to have wonderful festivities. We're going to have our May poll, May 1st. Be here or be square. And it's going to be amazing, and we're all going to dress in beautiful, wonderful dresses, and there's going to be flowers and lots of food. So get excited, guys.
So thank you all for joining us. I would love it as you leave, if you would also take 2 flyers. One flyer depicts the mural that we will be unveiling on Founders Day? Founders Day, yes, Founders Day in the library. The artist is Jared Reagan, and with many other students who assisted in painting the mural, and it is a work in progress. But please come back to view the mural in the library, which tells the story of the Society of the Holy Child Jesus, with its origins in England with Cornelia Connolly, and traveling around the world, and our final chapter at Illinois University. So, it's so good. Please please take time to come back and visit and see it. So we also, that opens on Founder's Day. Chelsea, when's the Founder's Day unveiling in the library?
So we're still scheduling that with Sister Peg, but it will be during that week, so the date will.
I'll post it on the alumni page.
Yeah.
Can I do one last
Date
one?
2 weeks, but it will be that week.
Pearl was our student of the month in November, so if you have not read about her and what makes her so amazing, go on the website and search Pearl Smith. Or student of the month November.
So,